He walked through his own front door like a stranger, and what the housekeeper whispered next stopped him cold. The mansion was too quiet. Marcus Hale felt at the moment he stepped inside. That specific silence that doesn't mean peace, it means something is being held together by sheer will. His driver had dropped him 2 hours early. A canceled flight, a redirected life. Elena met him in the foyer before he could reach the staircase. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't need to. Her eyes found his with a steadiness that cut straight through the fog of his exhaustion, and she said just 2 words. Please, wait. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now. What time is it where you are, and what city are you watching from? Let's see where this story reaches tonight. Elena Voss had worked in this house for 6 years. She had seen Marcus Hale negotiate billion-dollar deals from the dining table, bark orders into 3 phones at once, and leave for months without so much as a forwarding address. She had never once stopped him from going anywhere. Until tonight. Her hands were clasped in front of her, not shaking, but tight. The way hands look when someone is choosing calm on purpose. Marcus studied her face. No scandal here. No emergency. Something else entirely. Something quieter and far more dangerous than either of those things. Elena. His voice came out lower than he intended. She shook her head once gently. Not defiance. A request. He stopped. Down the hallway, soft light spilled from beneath the living room door. He could hear something, not voices, not television. Something slower. The measured sound of effort. Controlled, deliberate, private. Marcus Hale had not survived 30 years in finance by ignoring what his instincts told him. And right now, every instinct, he had said, this moment is breakable. Don't break it. So he waited. Elena exhaled. Almost imperceptibly, the relief of someone who wasn't sure the right choice would be made, now seeing it made anyway. She led him forward slowly, stopping just short of the living room entrance. The door was ajar. Through the gap, Marcus could see the room had been quietly rearranged, furniture shifted, a clear path across the floor, a blanket folded over the arm of the sofa, a glass of water on the side table, placed just within reach of a chair nearest the window. Small details. The kind of details that don't happen by accident. The kind that speak of someone who pays attention in all the ways that matter. He looked at Elena. She gestured with her eyes toward the gap in the door. Look. Just look. Don't announce yourself yet. Marcus leaned forward slightly. His son was sitting upright in the chair by the window. Nathaniel, 17 years old, back straight, jaw set, working through a set of hand exercises with the focused, grinding patience of someone who has learned that the body requires negotiation, not demands, not shortcuts, only consistent, unglamorous work. On the table beside him, a neat stack of medical folders, therapy schedules, handwritten notes in margins, a world of quiet battle, documented in plain manila folders that no press release would ever mention. Marcus felt something move through his chest. Not grief exactly, sharper than grief. How long had this been here? How long had this been happening while he was somewhere else, measuring his worth in closing prices and quarterly returns? He stepped back from the door. Elena was watching him, not judging, waiting to see what he would do with what he now knew. How long? Marcus asked, barely above a whisper. 18 months of the formal program, she said quietly. But the condition longer. He didn't want you told. I made the decision tonight because... She paused. Because he was asking about you today. He tried not to, but he was. Marcus looked at the door. He had built a life around never being caught unprepared. Around walking into every room, knowing more than anyone else present. Around control. He knocked softly on the open door and pushed it wider. Nathaniel's hand stilled. He turned, and for a fraction of a second, something unguarded crossed his face. Then it closed back up, careful and measured, the expression of a young man who had learned not to need things too loudly. You're back early, Nathaniel said. Flight canceled. Marcus stepped into the room. His eyes moved to the folders on the table, then back to his son's face. He didn't pretend he hadn't seen them. Can I sit down? A pause, long enough to mean something. Sure. Marcus pulled a chair over, not to the far side of the room, not to the authoritative position at the head of anything. Beside his son, level with him. He didn't reach for the folders. He didn't reach for his phone. He sat with his hands open on his knees, and he said nothing for a moment because he understood, finally, standing at the edge of something real, that the first words mattered. "I didn't know," he said at last, "and I want to understand why that is. Not to defend it, just to understand it clearly." Nathaniel looked at him for a long time. The city burned orange and silver through the window behind him. "You were always about to come back," his son said. "You were always one deal away from having time. So eventually I stopped." He stopped himself. "Recalibrated. I stopped planning around it." The sentence landed without cruelty. That was almost worse. It had the flat, factual quality of something long since processed. Marcus picked up the medical folder Elena had quietly placed at the edge of the table. He opened it. He read it slowly, every line, while Nathaniel watched him with the careful patience of someone who has spent a long time deciding whether honesty is worth the exposure. The report described resilience, not fragility, not defeat. A young man navigating a degenerative muscular condition with the diligence of someone who had decided, alone, quietly, without fanfare, that he would not be diminished by it. Drawings were tucked between the pages. Sketches, really. Scenes of a house, a table, figures around it. One figure, Marcus noticed, appeared in some drawings and not others. He recognized the absence. He set the folder down. "I'm not going to tell you things will be different," Marcus said carefully, "because you've heard the version of me that says things. I'd rather you watch the version of me that shows up." Nathaniel studied him, measuring. The same instinct Marcus had spent decades applying to boardrooms, now aimed directly back at him by his own son. "Okay," Nathaniel said finally. "Not forgiveness. Not yet." But the door left open, barely, deliberately enough. From the hallway, Elena allowed herself a breath. Her warning that night had not been about keeping secrets. It had been about keeping the moment safe long enough for it to become real. Marcus rearranged his mornings first, then his evenings. Small, unremarkable changes that added up to presence. He learned the names of Nathaniel's therapists. He learned the exercises, sat with the schedule, asked questions without trying to fix anything. He learned the difference between helping and hovering, and he made the mistakes that come with learning and acknowledged them plainly. Nathaniel noticed. He said nothing for several weeks. Then one evening he showed his father a drawing, just handed it across the table without explanation. The scene showed the living room, the chair by the window, two figures. Both of them were there. Marcus looked at the drawing for a long time. "Thank you," he said. Nathaniel shrugged, but the corner of his mouth moved. Elena, folding laundry in the next room, heard the quiet shift in the air and said nothing. She had known from the beginning that this house had enough room for repair. It had just needed someone to finally stop long enough to begin it. That's where we leave them tonight, not at a happy ending, but at a beginning. The kind that takes daily courage and no applause. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and come back, because the next story is already waiting.